Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world today. Hello. Thank you for joining us here at USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is The Corner Bookstore. This is a program where we celebrate authors, publishers, editors, people in public relations from all over the world to help inspire other people to share their journey, their stories in the work of writing. So today we're welcoming back a wonderful guest who is with us on The Wise Ones. Her name is Alison McBain, and Alison is extremely talented. I think it's very rare that you find someone who has accolades in so many different categories, but she is an award-winning author, an award-winning editor, and she has some skills and some talents that are truly unique, and I'm going to wait and save them to bring her out on the show. Let's welcome Alison McBain. Hello.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. So nice to see you again. You were here with Red O'Loughlin not that long ago. How was your experience with the interview?
Oh, it was awesome. He's a lovely person.
He truly is an incredible guy. We're going to keep him around for a while. So, Alison, I was mentioning about the fact that you truly are gifted because you're an award-winning author, and that means a lot, by the way, because I don't think people understand there's so many people putting great work out there, but not everyone is recognized as someone who is at the top of their game. Can you tell us a little bit about what it means to be award-winning?
Oh, well, thanks so much. You're making me blush. Basically, as you said, it's very hard to get recognized. So not just to put your own work out there, which is an accomplishment just by itself, but to have others, say, well, this is one of the great books of this year or of this, genre. So I am so appreciative that my work has received those recognitions. And sometimes it's sort of surreal, like when you're an aspiring writer, you go out there every day and you're like, okay, well, all I have to do is get to this milestone. I'm going to get my book published. And then you get your book published and you're like, okay, then all I'm going to do is get to this milestone. And it's, maybe win an award or be a best-selling author. And so it seems like small, laborious steps, as you go into the publishing sphere. And then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, wow, I did win these awards for my book. This is very cool. This is part of my dream from when I was, 4 years old and first took up the pen. So I'm still humbled and honored whenever my book does get a recognition or my books get recognitions. So I don't think that ever goes away.
Well, congratulations once again. And a question that I ask, because I really find it to be interesting, if you had not earned the awards, if you didn't think it was possible for you to do so, would you keep writing? Is that an inspiration for you, the awards?
It is an inspiration, but that's not why I do it. I think most writers will say they write because they love to write. So the awards are fabulous, and I am, again, so grateful for them. But I would keep writing even if I had an audience of 5 people, I think, or none, maybe. Like I just write for myself. I love writing. I love telling stories, and I think most authors would say the same.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So you are in Canada, but you also have dual citizenship. And how important is that to you?
Well, I was born in Canada, and I have one Canadian parent and one American parent, but I did spend the majority of my life in the US. So I like to say that I straddle not just the border, but also cultures, because my mom is Japanese American, and my dad's Canadian. And I think it gives me a more universal perspective on things. So, well, I guess I grew up in more of a international type of household, so I paid attention to more international type stories, which I like to include in my writing. I like to have like very diverse stories from around the world.
I really applaud you for that and celebrate that. Would it be fair to say that you have a curious, wondrous mind?
I think so. I hope everyone does, though.
We just had a show before this one where we were talking about helping female entrepreneurs. And one of the things we talked about was that when you have a curiosity and a wonder, you want to go out and collaborate, you want to write about different things, you want to experience different things. But not everyone is like that. That's not a passion for everyone, but it seems to be a passion for you. And the fact that not only are you an author, but you're also an editor and a ghostwriter. So you're really branching out. When did you realize that you had these skills and these interests in these other areas as well?
I would say from an early age. So my mom actually was a copy editor for a number of years. She never wanted to write. I always asked her, I was like, but don't you want to write too? Because writing was such a part of me. But we were, growing up, and we she would constantly tell us, oh, well, you don't say when someone says, "How are you?" You don't say, "I am good." You say, "I am well." So I think it was sort of ingrained into me from an early age, the proper type of English, not just to speak, but to write. So I come by it legitimately, my background in editing, I think, but the writing is 100% me.
And I love what you shared about speaking well and using the English language as it was meant to be used. How do you feel that X slash Twitter, with the number of characters that you can have, and then text messaging, and then younger generations' desire for everything to be so short, how has that impacted your writing based on what you learned about how to speak?
Well, I love all lengths of stories. So one thing that I do as an editor and actually a publisher is I publish a magazine. It's a monthly magazine called ScribesMICRO, and that actually ties into what you're talking about. So it's very short fiction, creative nonfiction, and poetry of about 100 words, which is very hard to pack a whole story into 100 words. That's about a paragraph. So it has definitely impacted one direction that I'm going in with what I publish, what I edit. But I think you can tell it takes a lot of skill to tell a story in 100 words. It takes a lot of skill to tell a story in 100,000 words and everything in between. So I think it's just using a different part of your creativity.
Thank you for that. It's so interesting for me because I'm 61. And when I was growing up, and even when I was working on my master's and my doctorate, I was taught to use big words, long words. And if you had more words, that meant you were more intelligent, allegedly. And then when I was in corporate and one of my managers was much younger, he said, cut it short, will you? I mean, just get to the point, stop using the fluffy words, just really drill it down. And I kind of felt like that was offensive. But it sounds like what you're saying is whether you have a long list of words or shorter, just make sure that they have an impact. There's meaning, there's reason for them.
Definitely. And my magazine runs an annual contest, which is actually going on right now. It's called the Scribes Prize with cash prizes. And we had a great response to our inaugural contest, which was last year, and people wrote into us after reading it. We have a number of followers for our magazine, and said that our winning stories, some of them made them cry, they made them laugh. You can have an impact in 100 words. You definitely can. just as you can have an impact with the longer work where readers get to follow along on the hero's journey with the characters. So, words are impactful, whether they're short or long, whether you use the $1,000 words that are, 10 syllables, or whether you use, something very brief.
Yes, absolutely. And just a quick example I want to give, and I'd love to have your feedback, is when we speak, for example, if someone says, I love you, or they say, love you, or love ya, the meaning could be different depending on how you take it. Maybe somebody wants to hear those three words as opposed to someone else who's happy to hear love ya. What are your thoughts about that? Because I think it really ties into how when we write, what comes out, from the pen or from the keyboard is what's in the brain.
Definitely. And the connotation and how we use words that might seem like they have a similar meaning, but once you string them together in a different way or use a slang type of term, really can impact the meaning, as you were saying. So, like, for example, you might say to your best friend, love ya, and your best friend would know you don't mean romantic love. You're not, you're not, going to propose to them next. Whereas, the more formal language can be meant to have more impact. There is a sliding scale. And this is something that comes into writing too, especially dialogue. Dialogue is a key area when you're writing, where it makes a difference whether you're using complete and proper English, which is not how we speak. We don't speak in complete and proper sentences. So when I'm advising new writers, that's one thing that I point out. What you just mentioned, like it may sound like the same type of sentiment, but it's different on how you use those words.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I want to segue into ghostwriting and tie it into what we're talking about just now. But for those who don't know, what does it mean to be a ghostwriter?
Well, it means a different thing for whether you're doing fiction or nonfiction. So I do fiction ghostwriting. Nonfiction ghostwriters actually, I think, have a lot more work in their profession because they have to interview a person, make sure that the story is accurate, all the facts, do double checking. For fiction, it's much like what you do when you are or when I am writing a regular book for myself. So basically, I have three types of clients. One, I might work directly with a publisher, in which case they might say, okay, well, we have to write a book in this style and this length. And sometimes I just take it from scratch, just know the genre and sort of the basic outlines, and then I go from there. Other ones that I work with, some writers, basically they'll give me a partial manuscript and I might finish it for them or I might flesh it out for them. And there are variations in between those two.
Thank you, Allison. Now, if I came to you and I said, I have a story that I want to tell, but I can't find the words and I don't have the time, can you work with me? Can you be my voice?
Yeah, definitely. I have definitely done that. So I have various clients who say, yes, I want to write the story. It's been bumping around in my head for a while. This is the basic summary. Can you bring this to life? And usually, sometimes we'll work with like a chapter by chapter outline. Sometimes I'll dive right in. Sometimes they have written part of it, and then I just continue for them.
That's really exciting. Now, going back to what we were just talking about a minute ago, if I asked you to write something for me and you know that I'm very formal in some ways, would your writing reflect that or would it reflect who the audience is? So, in other words, if I'm marketing to people who are boomers versus people who are Gen Z, would the word choice that you used and the combination of words, would it be different?
It would definitely. So basically, when someone comes to me with a project, if they don't have a very specific goal in mind, I usually talk with them about what they're looking for. So if they're looking, as you said, to market to an older audience, yeah, the language would probably be more formal. It would have a lot more facts, depending on genre, of course. This all depends on genre. And it might have an appeal to an older audience. I would say younger readers like a more conversational style. Again, depending on genre, like YA is very conversational generally. So it's more informal, lots of slang. You want to make sure that it hits your target market. And so I would bring, all my years of experience in this and give them advice if I thought they were going in the wrong direction for what they want to accomplish.
I totally agree and understand. It's interesting because in the first or second children's book that I wrote, I think I was writing to the parents, even though it's a children's book and the parents are reading it. When I reread it, I thought, oh my, this is for a much older audience. So you really need to know who your target audience is.
That's very true. I'm working with an author right now, not a ghostwriting project, but basically the voice, I'm doing an editing project. The voice was a bit on the younger side. So I suggested, okay, let's bring in these more adult themes to appeal to an adult audience. And this is something, and the author thought about it and said, oh yeah, okay, this is a good idea. Let's do it. But basically all of this, whether you're doing a younger voice, more slang, or doing more formal writing, it's all about marketing and making sure that your book gets into the hands of the right reader. Because the last thing you want to do is say, okay, this is a book for an adult audience, and adult reader who is expecting a certain thing of a genre or of the category picks it up and is disappointed. That's where you get the bad reviews, and that's nothing that you want, right, as a writer. So it's not that the book is any better or any worse. It's just making sure that you hit that target market.
Thank you. And I understand that your educational background is in African history and classical literature. How have you incorporated what you learned from when you were in school into your writing, or maybe into your work as an entrepreneur?
Well, I feel like history is stories, and it can be taught in a very dry, sort of boring kind of way. I had very fabulous teachers, very wonderful professors in college, and it brought history alive. And those two subjects actually opened the world to me and made me see that stories can be from anywhere. They can be from another historical subject that I really enjoyed studying was Asian history too. I didn't concentrate in that, but I did take a number of classes in that. So I love seeing the perspective of different cultures, and I do bring that into my writing. I've written a number of short stories that incorporate both classical, motifs as well as African history into them.
Very exciting. I don't think I've ever interviewed anyone who has that specific background.
Yeah, it's fun. And I keep on, learning didn't stop at college. I have behind me, I have a whole shelf of books that I'm continually reading, going over. I love my local library. I love to go there. And just, half of writing is reading to me, because if you're not learning new things, then where are the stories coming from? They got to come from somewhere. So you got to be out there doing your reading, and it's fun research. Reading is fun. It's probably one of the most fun things of the job. But yeah, it still ties back into the stories that you're writing.
And for our listeners who are not able to see the screen, you have book covers behind you. We're going to go over to your website in a minute, but can you tell us about the book covers that we see behind you?
Sure, definitely. This one, oops, wrong way. This one was my debut novel. It's a YA fantasy book. It's a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. And basically, it's a gender swapped. So the Beast is a woman. And she has a lot of agency over, what happens to her. So she's thrust into a new role where she becomes very powerful and has to learn what to do with it. On this side is one of my latest books. It's called The New Empire, and it's an alternate history. And the basic premise of it is, if the Chinese came over, way earlier in the 1400s to the Americas, how that might have changed history. And in the book itself, basically the indigenous population bands together with the help and support of the Chinese Empire and becomes a major world player. So by the time the book starts in the 1700s, the whole geography of the world has been changed.
Amazing. I love the stories. That's fantastic. And tell us about the covers, because the cover is really important. And I think what people don't realize is that your cover, if it's in a bookstore, for example, it can stand out or it can blend in. How important is it to stand out?
Well, you know the phrase "Don't judge a book by its cover." That is completely false. Everyone does, because it's the first thing you see, right? You're not, from far away, you don't see the words on the back of the book. So it is very important. Going back to the whole marketing theme, it's very important to have an eye-catching cover, something that will appeal to the readership that you're going for. So, for example, my YA book has, the girl front and center, and it shows her looking sort of sad. It draws you in because you're wondering why, what is going on with her life that she is, feeling this emotion. The New Empire cover has a very bold, eye-catching, not just the font, but also the dragon eating its tail that circles around this boy. And you wonder, what is this boy's story? So it's very important to have those elements, like some singular image that will catch your eye and make you pick up the book and then flip to the back and read the back cover copy.
And you've done just that. So, congratulations. We actually had a branding expert on yesterday, and they weren't on to talk about books. It was about business branding. But do you think there needs to be any type of branding if you're going to be writing a book series, for example, that you bring some of the same colors and the same concepts through to each book cover, or do you think one-offs are totally fine?
I completely think branding is important. So for example, my Rose Queen book is the first of a trilogy, and all the covers look very similar, with like the same sort of font and, a central female character. And so people will look at them as a series. We'll pick them up and be like, oh, okay, this is the same sort of tone. This is the same sort of writing. Whereas my New Empire book looks very different and gives that sort of feeling of what I'm going for, which is history. So I feel that it is important when you are doing a series to have that similarity. Again, catches the eye. You wanna see that right away. This is part of the, I like this. I will probably like the next one.
Now, I'm just going to leave you on spotlight. It looks to me like the font, the Rose Queen, and then the New Empire, the color in the back, it looks like it's that same pink, is it?
I'm not 100% sure. It might be.
It looks like that would be part of, even though they're different, that
Yeah.
they're connected sort of to you.
They might be. I think that might just be an accident.
Well, it's a good accident. So,
It is a good accident.
so when you're not writing and you're not editing, which we didn't talk about editing yet, what is it you like to do to keep yourself mentally fresh? I know you like to read, but do you go out into nature? Are there any things that you do for self-care?
Definitely. I take a walk every single day. I live in sort of a rural community, so I love just walking around. It's very quiet where I live. And when I have 3 kids, so I love playing board games with them, and just hanging out with them. Trying to think of what else I do. I do art. My kids and I like to draw together. So while it's creativity, it's a different sort of creativity than writing. Um, so yeah, I'm interested in everything. I'll try anything once, and yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head other than those things, but I do a lot. I managed to fill up the day.
That's a lot, especially with 3 kids.
Yeah.
And I love what you shared about the board games. I grew up where we played Scrabble all the time.
Oh, I love
And
Scrabble.
as I got older and I would ask people to play Scrabble, I noticed some people were ready to jump in and others like no. And I asked them why, and they thought they didn't have a very good vocabulary. So when you think about children all over and teaching them ways to use their brain in a productive way, a board game can do just that.
It can, and it's problem solving, which is something, like you go into class and it's, the teacher might have an exercise and the kids are slightly resistant. Oh, okay, it's school, it's work. But a board game can teach those same skills. Like, how do you solve this problem? Like that is put in front of you, and you think of a classic game like Monopoly, that's addition. They use percentages for, the interest. If you have to mortgage a property, it teaches you about, overstepping your means. So all of these all board games sort of have this sort of hidden learning into them, but they make it fun. So I love it. I think it has helped my kids be better problem solvers, definitely, and me too, probably because I was playing them since I was young too.
Yeah, it's a great way to use your mind and also to connect with other people. Now, as you know, as we all know, artificial intelligence has been here. It is here. It's taking over the world allegedly. I don't know if I'm kidding or not, but you've decided to defy the odds, and you're working on a specific project, author versus AI. Tell us about that.
Sure. Well, it started when I was talking to a friend about AI, and how it is encroaching into the creative sphere. And also, he hadn't known I was a ghostwriter. We were talking about how many words I produce per week, which is about 40,000 when I'm, working with several clients. And through the course of our conversation, we sort of came up with this plan, author versus AI. How can we show writers who are, again, getting sort of depressed? Oh man, this AI is taking over. How am I ever going to write a book? How am I ever going to get it published if, AI is going to be writing all the books from now on? And really spotlight that AI doesn't have to take over. It is in certain ways. It's definitely encroaching. I just read an article the other day about how a business that writes copy, and pardon me if I'm getting the details wrong. I didn't think I was going to be talking about it today, but a business that writes copy had laid off, I think, 30 of their employees and hired only one back to produce articles using AI and make them sound human. So yeah, it's definitely impacting the creative sphere. It's definitely impacting where writers are earning their income. But my project, which is write a book a week, is to show that writers still have a place, human writers, as opposed to artificial writers, and we can make our own impact. And since I started this project, and since I was talking about it beforehand, there are a number of writers I've talked to have said, "Oh, I might write a book a week. I might join in your project." And this sounds like something that is doing a great job of shining a spotlight on the fact that, yeah, writers are pretty extraordinary too. We don't have to necessarily worry that AI is going to take over what we're doing. Will it take over some of what we're doing? Yes, and we will adjust. It's sort of like this is the new industrial revolution almost, where machines took over a number of jobs of people, but people did adjust, and we can adjust today too.
That's very true. And whereby robots came in and took over jobs, then humans were needed to come and do other things now that it's sort of like a evolution, if you will.
Yeah.
So what I'm wondering is with this project that you have going on, a book a week, is there a place for artificial intelligence? And I'll give an example. My book covers are all done by my illustrators, but I know you can use artificial intelligence to create book covers. Is that something that would be okay with writing a book every week that you get a cover? And I don't know if AI actually does it or if they make suggestions of what it's supposed to look like. Do you have any idea?
I do know a bit. Using an AI program, yes, say, I want a book cover that has a girl on the cover and maybe she has a horse or something. And it will produce various covers for you. So yeah, you could definitely use it in that sphere. Part of my project though is not to use any AI anywhere. So I have actually spoken with local artists, some a little bit further afield, who will be part of the project when it gets to the publishing stage. So right now I'm not publishing any of the books, I'm just writing them because that would be truly insane to try to publish them at the same time. That takes a lot of time and effort. But when I do get to the publishing stage of things, there are a number of artists who will be personally creating the covers, personally being involved with the art for it too. I want this to be an AI-free zone for all my books.
And before the book gets published, obviously, any book gets published, there should be some type of editing that takes place. And if you could explain to our audience, what does an editor actually do? And how do you know when your book has had the final edit?
That's a that's a good question. Also complicated. So editors do different things, and there are different editors for different aspects of editing. Some editors do it all. I'm one of those. I will do everything from developmental editing, which is looking at the overall structure and making sure that there is consistency, that it is flowing along, that there aren't any major plot holes that don't make sense. So that is developmental editing. It's not, the very specific, like looking at each line and making sure there's a comma. That's more along the lines of copy editing, where you look at sentence structure, paragraph structure, typos, grammatical errors. That's copy editing. So that's a completely different sphere than looking at the overall structure of the book. There's also proofreading, which is what you do right before publication, making sure, again, that there aren't any errors, small errors like commas or formatting problems, things like that. So there are different levels of editing, and usually you might have to hire different people to do different things for your book.
Thanks for that explanation. And when it comes to the editing, people have a book that's published and then they decide to go back and make some changes. When does that typically happen, where you might see it's a first release, now it's a second release? What are some of the common reasons that you hear, or that you might suggest to your clients that they go back and update the current version?
I generally don't actually. But some reasons for going back is if there's a cultural or social shift sometimes. So I've seen books that have been changed 30 years down the road, just because there's something that has changed about, the readership, and updating the version will allow the author to get new readers, younger readers. So that's one big reason for releasing an updated version. Sometimes then you would put in a new foreword by a different, more modern or newer type of author, or celebrity who would write a foreword for you. So yeah, there are a couple of reasons that you might do an updated version.
Thank you. And Alison, you also keep a blog, and if you would describe to our audience, what type of content do you blog about?
Um, all kinds. Actually, I have several websites that I write for regularly. So on my own personal website, I'll talk about writing news. I also have my Author versus AI website, which is talking about my projects. So I have everything. Oh, that's my personal website. So for example, I'll talk about places that I go for writing conferences, advice. I used to interview different creatives. I haven't done that recently. There's never enough time to do everything you want to do, right? So what you're showing right now was a local conference called No Place Like Home, run by the Writers Guild of Alberta. And there were some fabulous speakers there. It was great to meet everyone. And then I also write regularly on a website called Medium, which I would say that is one of the best writing sites around that I found, where I talk about different types of writing advice, share fiction, poetry, etc. And actually, you stopped on news. I haven't written my latest blog post, but I'm going to shortly, and I'm happy to share this here first. My latest novel, so there's a contest called the 3-Day Novel Contest, where over Labor Day weekend, you're supposed to write a novella in 3 days. And there's usually about 500 to 600 entrants. And I just found out that I am one of the long-listed. I did write a short novella last year called Duel. And I just found out I'm one of the 8 long-listed candidates for it. So they'll announce. Yeah, I know. I'm so excited.
Congratulations. And please let our audience know, what is a novella?
A novella is anything shorter than 40,000 words. So it's sort of like a cross between a short story and a novel. I don't think I could write a novel in 40,000 words or above in 3 days, but I could definitely write something a little bit shorter. And apparently the judges really liked it. So I'm very thrilled about that and very grateful for the judges for picking mine as one of the long-listed novellas. So.
And thanks for sharing that news here. That's fantastic. Let's go over to your website again, and let's just take a look at your work here. So this is the one that you were talking about before.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The New Empire. It's received a lot of accolades I'm very grateful for. In fact, its life started, I won a pitching contest. And part of the winnings was a traditional publishing deal with a fabulous publisher in Connecticut. And after that, it kept on going. So a lot of people seem to like it, which I'm happy about. It's a standalone book. It's not part of a series.
It's a lot of awards.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations. That is super impressive.
Thanks.
Look at all these. Amazing. Okay. How about this?
That one is sort of a fun one. That was one of the first romance books that I wrote. I write in all genres. I love stories of, all different backgrounds. So on sort of someone had suggested, oh, well, you haven't published romance yet. I was like, oh, that's a good point. Okay, I'm going to write a romance. Sure, why not? And so this one was sort of a fun one. It's basically a woman decides to open a B&B, and she runs into a lot of problems, and there's 2 guys vying for attention, a classic contemporary romance. And then I had someone reach out to me after reading my work and say, hey, we'd like to feature this. Would you like to be one of our writers? And it's this website called Pocket FM. And what they do is they release a chapter a week. And so I was like, okay, I can do this. And so I started releasing the chapters, and the whole thing is published there now. So you can read the whole story. But it's a fun app, and I think it has something like millions of downloads or something. So people seem to be enjoying it on that platform. It's not in print, it's just on this website.
So is it Audible? I mean,
No,
is it you're reading it, you're not listening to it?
Yeah, you're just reading it on an app.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting. Very exciting. And you give people the ability to click here and go ahead and do just that.
Yep.
How about this?
That's my collection of short stories, and the cover art was done by a friend of mine, which I was very excited. He did it specifically for me, which was lovely. And I wrote the first story, actually is called Enchantress of Books, and I wrote it in response. It's an ekphrastic story, which means I was inspired by his art to write a story. So that was the first story of the collection. But it's all fantasy short stories, some very long, some a page. So it gives a good sampling of my fantasy stories.
And the cover really draws you in, especially the colors, so powerful. It's like that red, and then the blue is sort of peaceful. I don't know, it's kind of like opposites. Did you mean to have that?
Yeah, and well, he did the art, so it's definitely his his brainchild. But he is a fantastic artist, and I think there's maybe a link to his website or a link to him somewhere on the book blurb. But yeah.
Okay. All right, fantastic. Thank you. And this is what we were what we see behind you. I'm not looking at you right now. I'm over here on your website. Okay.
Yeah, and the second book is almost complete, so I might be it might be released maybe next year. We'll see.
More and more awards. Well, congratulations. Is there anything else on this website that you want us to share?
No, this is great. Yeah, I have a lot of short stories too. So if you want to see if you actually like what I write, some of them are available online. You can read them for free. So that's also on my website if people want to go there and read them.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. What would you like to discuss or share that I might not have asked you about?
I think just a word of inspiration to other writers. So again, my project Author versus AI is to hopefully inspire other writers to keep on writing, no matter how much AI seems like a threat to our profession. But just, I was talking to a writer the other day, and they were like, well, why should I keep writing? What is the number one reason? How will I get my work out there? And my advice to them was write because you love to do it. And if you love what you're doing, someone else will love it too. The problem with our industry, any sort of creative industry, is there is a lot of competition, therefore there's a lot of rejection. And if you take that first rejection to heart, and decide to stop writing, then you'll never get published. But rejection is just part of the business. It's not a fun part of the business, but for example, I stopped counting my rejections after I reached 1,000, literally 1,000 rejections for my work over the past, 10 years. But you keep on going. You will find someone who loves what you write, who, if I had stopped after that first rejection, I wouldn't have my award-winning books. I would have, I would just be playing board games with my kids, which is also fun. But you will always be your number one fan. And the point is to find someone else who is equally a fan of your writing, and you will.
What an inspiration you are. Thank you so much. It's been my honor and privilege to host you today. I hope you'll come back and see us again. And people would like to reach out to you. They want to purchase your books. We have your links on the screen in the notes section. What's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Sure. I have two websites right now that I'm maintaining. The first one just is my author website, AlisonMcBain.com. That's Alison with one L. And then I also have my current project for the year, which is authorversusai.com.
There you go. We've got it right there on the screen. Thank you, Alison, for being here. And please continue with all your success and to inspire people.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye for now. Please do reach out to Alison. Go and purchase Alison's books. And if you have a story to tell, let's get it out there. What are you waiting for? I just want to thank also Diane Fleabane. You see her books that are next to me. I never know which side they're. These are her books. She started the show with me. This one is one of mine, but she started the show with me back then. It was her brainchild, and Mickey Mickelson has been with us ever since. So we love hosting authors, and we hope that you will come and share your story with us also. All right, we are going to come back very shortly with our next show, which is Talking Heads and Mr. Red O'Loughlin. So do stay tuned for that. Until then, we're going over to our sponsors. See you soon. Bye. USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Unstoppable Podcast. No matter where you are right now or what circumstances you face, lasting success is within your reach. Starring Ralph Graves Jr., author of the book Unstoppable. Wear that crown. Ralph is a pastor, transformational speaker, and consultant. Follow Ralph on social media at Ralph Graves Jr. Unstoppable Podcast Wednesdays on USA Global TV and Radio. You are unstoppable. This program has been brought to you in part by Zane Carson Carruth, etiquette and protocol expert, international award-winning author, television show host, and philanthropist. Thank you to Zane, our official diamond sponsor for USA Global TV and Radio in partnership with E360 TV. Zane is the author of the world's first tooth fairy ever, as well as many other children's books. She's also the television host of Elegance, Polished Demeanor, and Posh Living, seen on USA Global TV and Radio.
Hi, my name is Zane Carson Carruth, and I'm the author of this book, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever.
Reading is magic. Studies have shown that reading to your children lays the foundation for greater success in life. Reading helps develop language and vocabulary skills. It helps improve memory, and it encourages curiosity and inspires creativity. The benefits are immeasurable, and as a parent, you'll benefit too. In only 10 or 15 minutes a day, you'll be creating more memories and a bonding experience that will last for years to come. So take time to read to your children. Read them books about things that engage and interest them. Tales of fairies and magic fascinate children, and as everyone knows, the Tooth Fairy is at the top of the list. If your child loves magic, wands, adventure, and what child doesn't, you'll love reading them books from the trademarked series, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever. Follow along as Bella, the world's first tooth fairy, accidentally starts the tooth fairy tradition. Learn the tricks of being a professional tooth fairy in the book, Bella Starts a Tooth Fairy School. Your child's imagination will soar as you read the adventures of Bella and her magic wand. These wonderful books are available at worldsfirsttoothfairy.com. and at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.
To learn more about Zane, contact her through her website, zanecarruth.com, ZANECARRUTH.com. Order Zane's books and merchandise. Contact her about being a keynote speaker at your next event.